showrunner has sent us the draft, so let's do some script coordinating. So we go to our email, we're going to get that draft. It's here, on the desktop. Have our episode folder open. So remember the first thing we're going to do, we're going to create our finals folder. If Studio and Network were a separate thing, we'd have Studio and then Finals, but because we're saying, for our purposes, we're just going to do a Studio Network draft as one thing, we don't need to create an extra folder. As much as I love folder redundancy. Original. So we're going to put our draft into the original folder like we talked about. We're going to duplicate it like we talked about. Finals, and then this is the draft we're going to work off of. So let's open this thing up. All right. Just a quick disclaimer about this pilot that we're using to go on this journey to take from first draft to eventually a shooting script. Please don't pay attention to the content of the pilot. It doesn't matter. In a lot of situations, it's not even going to make sense because there's several scenarios where I've just copied and pasted the same scene over again to show you how to deal with certain problems. So yeah, just don't pay attention to the content of the pilot. It's not sort of the purpose of what we're doing here. Just in terms of like getting a first draft out, I think it takes me about 3 hours, and I've been doing this for a long time. I spend like an hour or so formatting, putting scene numbers and the day-night breakdown and everything, which we'll go over before I even start reading it. And then I'm a fairly slow reader, so for an hour, if it's like this is 58 pages because it's a pilot, but if it were like a 45-page script, it would probably take me an hour, maybe a little more to read, because I am also reading it with like a fine-tooth comb. I'm not skimming over anything. And then, about an hour to put my changes in and make it look all pretty and the title page and the whole deal. So I think 3 hours is about fair. But again, I've been doing this for a long time, so you may want to allot more time for yourself. And with a studio or network draft, you'll sometimes get into a time crunch situation because the studio network will have a rule like if you want to get notes tomorrow, then you need to get this script to us by say like 7 o'clock at night. So if the showrunner sends it to you at 6, this would happen a lot on my show, and I would say to my showrunner, like, in an hour, I can put the scene numbers on it and the day night breakdown and put the title page on it, but like in an hour, I won't have time to actually proof it. So if you want it out by 7, we can do that, and then I'll just read it after it goes out, and whatever typos I find or whatever questions I have for you, we'll just do them on the next draft. And usually the showrunner is going to want it out because they want to get the ball rolling on getting notes and everything. And they're usually fine with that, but they do need to be realistic that you can't do everything you need to do with, especially with a first draft, in an hour. I personally, in my opinion, the worst thing a script coordinator can be is rushed. So I way prefer a showrunner to say, like, I'm going to send you the script at 10 o'clock at night and I don't care what time it goes out. Because even if I need until 1 in the morning to work on it, who cares? Like, yeah, I have to stay up late, but I can take my time and make sure everything is right. I'd way prefer that than him send it to me at 5 and say it has to be out by 7. So before we even get into proofing it or anything, I just want to show you some final draft formatting stuff. We're going to assume this is a new show, so the script format has not been established yet. You're going to be the one who's going to establish that, and after you do, it'll be established for every draft. You're not going to have to do this every time. So the first thing we're going to do is, if you see there's like an extra space here, like for your slug line here, there's an extra space. That's like a standard final draft format. We're going to change that. So we're going to go to elements, and we're going to go to scene heading, paragraph, and then see it says space before. We're going to just make this 1. So right now, if you look, the script is at 60 pages. Just by making this change, we just took it down to 58 pages just by making that change. I guess if your showrunner says they like the extra space there before the slug line, leave it, but I've never had a showrunner say that. Mostly they're going to want to save as much page space as possible. The other thing I want to look at is the toolbar. So we're gonna go to customize toolbar here. So the things up here, the things that I like to have, um, I don't put bold, italics, and underline up here because I just use the keyboard commands like Command B for bold, etc. But if you want it up here, you can just drag and drop it up here. I don't want it up there, so I'm gonna put it back and it goes away. So anything you like to have, you can put up here. Anything you don't want to have in this toolbar, you can just put it down in here. The other thing we want to be able to see is the ruler. Show ruler. So that's this. See, that wasn't here before. And the reason we want that ruler is because it is a very valuable tool for us. Let me see if I can show you an example. So like, see if this were like on the next line, you can just click here and drag it over and it'll come back to there's an extra space there. It'll come back up here. You don't want to go too far with your margins. Like, if you're here, I just kind of like to see like, oh, if I go this far, will it pull it up? If I go this far, will it pull it up? That's probably a little far. So you just want to keep it within reason, but that's why it's nice to have your ruler. Another bit of formatting here for the header. I'm seeing that the header is not showing on the first page. So we are going to remedy that because we need to see the header on every page. So we're going to go to options, show header on first page.